first time back. So there's been a couple of changes. You haven't got a tennis court anymore, I noticed. You've got a brand new building, which is phenomenal. So a lot's happened in that time, and so I really wanted to come and share with you some of my experiences and give you guys a chance to ask me any of the questions that you might have as we go. So don't hesitate to holler if you've got any questions as we go. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So for me, chiropractic's in the blood. My father was a chiropractor. He actually graduated from Palmer back in 1958. Now, interestingly enough for me, when I grew up, I actually believed that everybody saw a chiropractor. Because in your formative years, I don't know what it's like for you guys, but up to about the age of 5, you guys can come and take a seat instead of standing at the back. It's all good. I always used to arrive 5 or 6 minutes late, so and I always used to sit in the back row too. So I got my eyes on you guys in the back row there. So up to about the age of 5, kind of like your home and your garden is your world. Yes, it's what you experience, the people you see, and what goes on. And for us, right in the centre of my world was my father's chiropractic practice. And so I used to hang out in the reception, and we used to talk, to the people coming and going. And so it was quite normal for me that everyone came and got an adjustment. And we used to see some absolutely miraculous events. It was actually quite funny because my father had the practice on the first floor of the house as opposed to the ground floor. And a friend of ours once said, "Why have you got it upstairs? Why don't you just put it on the ground floor?" He says, "For people that can't climb up the stairs." And my dad used to say, "If they can't make it up the stairs, I don't want to see them." So that was, I suppose, his first physical test that he'd pre-qualify his patients with. But I used to see people literally being carried up on ironing boards and piggybacked. If they couldn't climb the stairs, they'd be carried up by their family members. They'd go to see my father and be able to walk away again. So for me, that was my grounding belief. And then I went to big school. So about 6 years old, you go off to school. And I sat next to a guy, his name was Lee, and he became my best buddy. And we did everything together. We'd play in the mornings together, we'd play at lunchtime together, we'd do all that kind of stuff, so we'd sit together. And then I think it was in term 2, Lee didn't show up for school one day. Not such a biggie, but then he didn't show up to school the next day, and he didn't show up the next day or the next day. It was actually about a week and a half, and he finally came back to school, and so of course, first question was, "Lee, what happened? Where have you been?" He said, "I've been in hospital." I said, "Oh, really?" Now, I'd never been inside a hospital up to that point, which was great. And I said, "So, what did you go to hospital for?" He says, "I've got diabetes." And he showed me in the break time how he had to take his bloods and do all that kind of stuff, and it looked pretty drastic to me. And so I was kind of confused, because I'd never heard of diabetes before. And so I went home that night, and first thing when I saw my dad, I said, Dad, I said, "Lee's got diabetes." And he said, "Oh, really?" And I said, "What is it?" And he said, "Oh, it's, about part of your body and it can't help with the sugar." And I said, "Well, can you help?" He said, "Well, the thing is, because Lee is young, maybe by doing some adjustments, we can stimulate the nerves that go to that part of his body. And yeah, maybe we can make a difference." So I was like, yes, fantastic. We're going to be able to help Lee, because I've seen all these people come into our practice where they couldn't walk and they walked out, where they had migraines, where they couldn't sleep. All these kind of life-changing events occurred on a daily basis for me. So the next day I went back to Lee and I said, "Lee, guess what? My dad might be able to help your diabetes." And he said, "Really? What does your dad do?" I said, "He's a chiropractor." Lee never heard of one of those. I thought, well, that was a bit odd, because everyone gets chiropractic, right? And so I thought, well, that's a bit odd. So he said, what do you do? He says, "Is there any needles or anything involved?" So I really don't like the needles. He didn't like doing the blood thing. I said, no needles, just use his hands." He says, "Great, well, I'll tell my dad when I get home." So the next day I come back to school, and Lee doesn't come and sit next to me. Odd. So at break time, I go out to the playground, and Lee doesn't want to play with me. That's getting really odd. So at lunchtime, I managed to corner Lee, and I said, "Lee, what's going on? What did your dad say?" He said, "Your dad's a quack." What? He says, "Yeah, your dad shouldn't even be allowed to do what he does. It should be illegal. That's what my dad says." And he ran off. I was devastated. There my dad was. He was a hero. He's helping all these people, and all of a sudden, Lee's dad says, "My dad's a quack." I'm 6 years old. Absolutely shattered. And I can remember at that point saying, if only they understood what it was we do, they'd all be coming in as patients. Yeah? Does everyone ever feel like that? If they understood a little bit more about what we do, there'd be more of the population would come and see a chiropractor. Yes or yes? Yeah, 100%. So that was in the mid to late 70s when I was 6, okay? So scoot forward to now. So we've got lots of research, yes? Yeah, we've been doing lots of research, haven't we? We weren't a household name back then, for sure. In fact, we had to hire a chiropodist in our practice because so many people back then, this was in Plymouth, by the way, which is renowned for being very forward-thinking, yes? So this is in Plymouth, so people used to call up the practice and say, oh, I need help with my corns and my bunions and all these kind of things. So many people, in fact, that we hired a chiropodist to work in the practice, okay? So anyway, so now we're a household name, yes? Most people have heard the word chiropractic, would you say? Yeah, it's here in England, as well as Australia. But what's one thing we're still saying that we were saying then? Just if they understood what chiropractors do, they'd all want to come, wouldn't they? So why is it, after nearly 40 years, we're in the same predicament, or the same pattern? Any ideas? Has anyone ever heard the saying, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got? Yes? So what are we as a profession doing differently in the last 40 years?
Growing.
Sorry? Growing. We are growing slowly. I don't think we're growing fast enough, but we are growing slowly. But so slowly, in fact, we're still pretty much saying the same mantra as we were then. So, for me, my question tonight is, what's our future? I mean, this should be a question that all of you are asking right now. Okay? You guys, any of you here racking up student debts? Okay? So you want to know that not after all this hard work, but the fact you're actually putting your money on the line, is it going to be worth it? Yeah, is anyone in this room concerned about that at all? Does it kind of keep you up at night and you think about it just before you're about to sit an exam? Is it worth it, all of this? So at the beginning of this year, I became really excited about something, and that was the fact that my eldest daughter, Ariana here, decided she wants to become a chiropractor. Now for me, I was really excited because to me, I don't know of a profession in this world where you can help so many people in a positive way every single day. I don't have an alarm to wake up. We actually start practice at about 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I'm in practice for 12 hours a day. To me, it's not work. I absolutely love it. I've been doing it for 21 years. Okay, I couldn't see myself doing anything else. So for the fact that Ariana wanted to join this profession, absolutely wonderful. But then as a profession, or as a parent, you look at the profession and you start to have a couple of concerns. Okay, so I work a lot with the Spinal Research Foundation in Australia, and Rolly Cook, who's the CEO, he said to me earlier in the year, he said, you know, the revenues are down because chiropractors are doing it tough since the GCC. I think there was a stat here in the UK, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but the stat I heard was up to 30% of new chiropractic graduates are no longer chiropractors after 5 years. Is that right? Is that right? I mean, can that really be possible? So as a parent, I'm a bit concerned. You know, what is the future of this profession and where are we headed? So I went to an old friend called Google and I typed in chiropractic. And the top hit in the search engine was Wikipedia. Now, we may not all agree with Wikipedia, but this is the Wikipedia definition of chiropractic, and it actually starts out really quite positively. So we're complementary approach to healing, concerned with treatment and prevention of disorders of the neuromusculoskeletal system and the effects these disorders have on general health. Woohoo! That's excellent. I wish it had stopped there. So it then goes on, and it talks about where chiropractic was started and so on. But come and have a look at the paragraph right at the end here. So it basically says that chiropractic is really good for musculoskeletal conditions such as low back pain, but there's no credible evidence on the effects on other conditions. So they're still saying what they used to say back in the 70s. See, when my father went to practice in the 70s, he used to carry this big weight on his back, and that was the fact that they told him, where's the proof? Where's the science behind what you do? And here, 2014, they're saying the same old mantra, okay? That the evidence isn't there. And look at this, some evidence of severe adverse effects from cervical vertebral manipulation. Wow. Has anyone actually looked into those statistics? It was interesting, when I first went to Australia, so it's 13 years ago, I just got to the country, and there was a front page newspaper article saying, chiropractic manipulation causes stroke. And I thought, great, what a time to come to a country as a chiropractor. Front page. And they cited 10 cases. Now, thankfully, they had researchers, chiropractic researchers in Australia at the time that went through this claim in the paper. In fact, there was only one registered or qualified chiropractor that was listed in those 10, and that one was a VBI. Okay, so where it was basically a transient ischemic attack that can happen when you have your hair washed, reverse your car, all kinds of different reasons that can cause one of those. So who were the other 9? Well, the other 9 were people doing cervical manipulation that looked like something chiropractors do. So there was 3 GPs that had done weekend courses. There was some manipulative physios, and there was even a blind masseur in India who had done something that looked like what chiropractors do, so they called it a chiropractic manipulation. It's like me saying, well look, this person needs heart bypass, so I'm going to do a cardiac bypass surgery, and oh, shit, he's dead. But it's okay, because it was open heart surgery like a surgeon does, so I can just put it under that label. Would that be fair? No, of course not. So here we've got it. We've got this poo stuck to our shoe, which we can't seem to scrape off at the moment. Effects of cervical vertebra. Did you know you are just as likely to get a vertebral incident going to your GP than you are going to your chiropractor? Statistical. That's researched and referenced. And then at the bottom, the ideas of innate intelligence and the chiropractic subluxation are regarded as pseudoscience. Now there may be a few people in the room that agree with that bottom line. The big thing that I find it's really interesting in our profession is we seem to think that our philosophy and our science is some way separate camps. That you're either philosophical or you're scientific. Okay? If you believe that, you've got to just go run 5 times around the quad, get really wet, then bang your head against the door a few times and come back in the room. Because you cannot separate. You cannot separate the philosophy from the science. Is anyone familiar with James Chestnut? Okay. Philosophy is the art of asking the question. Science is the proving of the question. The only difference is the quality of the question. If you ask the same questions, what kind of results are you going to get? Anyone awake out there? What kind of results are we going to get? Ask the same questions, you're going to get the same results. And that's what happens over and over again. The same questions, the same questions, the same questions. We've got to start asking some better questions, guys, because if we want to have a future that's really worth getting into, you see, at the moment, what I see is we're here. What are we known for as chiropractors, primarily?
Adjusting low back pain.
Adjusting what? So low back pain, yeah. So about four years ago, I actually did an exercise. With my wife, I went to America and I went outside the profession to try and find out some of these answers. And the first thing they asked us to do was to go out into our community. You know the Gordon Ramsay cooking shows? Where they tell them to go out into the community and find out what it is people want to eat and what they want to pay. So I went out to find out, what is it that people think chiropractors do? Now I've asked over 1,000 people, not just in Australia, but here in the UK and America and Canada. And guess what over 90% of people think we do? Deal with bad backs. Are there any people here in clinic at the moment? Final comment here? Okay. What I'd like you guys to try and do, okay, it's called killing the elephant in the room. When a new patient comes into the practice for the first time, especially a student practice, what is their state of mind? What are they thinking? What's their primary concern, do you reckon?
They know what they're doing.
Do they know what they're doing? Yeah, that's definitely. Do they know what they're doing? Or, what are they going to do to me? Okay, because when they come into the practice, I want you to ask them, first thing, before you ask them anything else, what is it you think that we do? You see, we're so keen, we want to impart all of our knowledge onto these new patients. We go straight in there and tell them what we're going to do. They're only going to hear a small percentage of that. If we ask them a question and we say, what is it you think that we do? And just wait for them to answer. Because at first, especially here in England, you're frightfully polite. You really don't like to upset anybody. Okay, so if there's something bad to say, you'd rather not say it. Isn't that right? It's the same thing with your patients. They're exactly the same. They're not going to blurt out, well, I think you're a bloody back cracker, and you're going to put the bone back into place. And the only reason I've been everywhere else first, I've had drugs, I've had people stick needles in my bottom, I've had all kinds of things, but you're my last resort. Because isn't that right? Isn't it the last place they come pretty much? Wouldn't you say? Yeah, most people who come to a chiropractor the first time, it's their last resort. They've been everywhere, okay? Because they're afraid of what they think it is we do. They think we're going to realign a bone. They think we're going to crack their back. And potentially they think that's going to be harmful to them. We live on a golf course, which is kind of funny because I find golf is about the most frustrating thing I can do with 3 or 4 hours of my time. But I do like to play golf occasionally because, especially if you go to corporate days, you get to meet what I call decision makers. So people who have enough money that they don't have to work 5 days a week. They can take a day off and go and play golf. And they generally, have employees and businesses and companies and those kind of things. So I was talking with a guy, and he's, really smart guy. Okay, he's actually doing a lot of data storage on the iCloud. He's got over 1,000 employees around Australia. And I start telling him a bit about what I do. And he goes, wow, because I've never been to one of you guys. So anyway, because we live on the course, at the end of the day, I brought him to the house and I did a full assessment on him. And he stood up to me and he said after, he says, if I knew this is what you guys did, I'd have been there years ago. I said, why didn't you come years ago? He said, well, I thought if I went to a chiropractor, I'd never be able to surf again. Now this guy had a shoulder problem and he thought that if he went to a chiropractor, potentially, he'd never be able to surf again, so he'd rather just put up with a stiff shoulder. That's the level of thought that's going on out there. So we've got this image that we deal with back pain. Now up till now, as a profession, we've actually been able to do really quite well out of that. Okay, out of that branding and that image. We've certainly been successful. We've had practices here in the UK and in Australia. We've got a practice, there's 3 chiropractors, there's 6 of us. We turn over $1 million a year. Thank you very much. It's fantastic. But what I see is that isn't going to be continuing forever. Because what's happening now in the back pain market, there's always been painkillers and anti-inflammatories, yes? There's always been the option of physiotherapy and steroid injections, yes? Well, now we've got things like nanotechnology. We've got stem cell therapy, okay? There's even a course now in Australia where you can become a biotechnician, essentially, and what they do is they take endemic stem cells. Now, endemic stem cells are stem cells you take from your own body tissue, they cultivate them, and they put them into a 3D printer and print new body parts. They're already in their 2nd year of study. It's a 4-year degree. So they're going to start producing with a 3D printer body parts. I said, which body parts are you starting with? Soft tissue, cartilage and discs. So do you think if we hang on to our back pain model, there's going to be more competition to come by the time you guys are graduating? You betcha. You betcha. So if you want to hang your hat on that, be prepared to have to work really bloody hard. Okay, because getting those new patients, they're going to have a lot more options. So that's option A. Option B, I want to work through and try and present with you guys this evening. Is anyone happy to stick with option A? No? You want to just go so far and say I'm happy with that? Okay. So we don't like to hear option B. Yeah? Okay, cool. So we haven't lost you yet. Brilliant. So there's a book called The Leadership Challenge. Now, why I'm referring to the Leadership Challenge is I think as to be a successful chiropractor, you have to be a leader. Okay, is anyone going to work on their own, or are we going to have maybe some CAs or other people work with us? Who's going to work on their own and that's it? Just Yeah, no one answering your phone or helping you out the back or any of those kind of things? No staff? Just on your own? Cool. The rest of us, we're going to have staff and those kind of things, yes? So, in order to be able to lead those staff, we need to develop some leadership skills, yes? Now, when we set up in practice, whether we practice on our own or whether we have staff, we're going to need people to come and see us, yes? Yeah? It's not going to work very well if no one comes to see us. So when someone comes to see us the first time, what do you think would be their ideal chiropractic experience? From the patient's perspective, coming in for the first time. What do you think they would really like?
Friendly receptionist.
Friendly reception, no, what? The experience, the whole procedure. Well, I'll tell you what our research has shown. What they'd like is for it to be a one-off visit. If you could do it by post, that would be even better. And if you didn't have to charge them, that would be absolutely spot on. So for a new patient's perspective, yeah, they'd like you just to put that bone back into place so they can go off and play golf and do whatever they've got to do. That's what they'd really like. So how successful a model is that and how realistic is that? So what we've got to be able to do is take them by the hand and guide them and lead them onto a way that they can actually become healthier and have their bodies working better, yes? So when we look at the leadership challenge, what are the key components? Well, the first thing that people rely on for if they're going to be led by someone is whether they're being honest. Honesty is the number one attribute that people say as a leader you need to have. Second thing is forward looking. What's in the future? What's coming up? Okay, are we explaining to our patients how long it's going to take? Are we explaining to them how many visits it's going to take? What are we saying? Are we explaining to them what potential their bodies still have? Because see, when people come to our practice and they've been to their GP and so on, how positive and how forward-looking are most diagnoses these days? Do they get a diagnosis and go, yippee, it's going to be great, my life's getting better? They don't, do they? They wear it like a badge. Oh, I've got arthritis, that's why I've got this problem and that problem, and I've got this going on, I've got that going on, I've got hormonal problems. They're not looking for a result, they're not looking to improve themselves, they've got this badge, they've got this label that they'll now carry around with them. What's in the future? Inspiring. See, we had a couple of teachers and actually they didn't come around for a lecture, they kind of went here and I know they're probably these days they'll probably be checking their SMSs and kind of talking like this. That's when I fall asleep in the back row with you guys. Or you can choose to be out here. Okay, it's not as comfortable. Okay, you don't like public speaking. It's much easier to public speak from behind there, but it's going to make a bigger impact if you get out of your comfort zone. So being inspiring, and then being competent. So competency comes from a couple of things. Number one, being absolutely certain about what it is you're doing. So who's in clinic at the moment? Okay. So where's your level of certainty at the moment when you get a new patient in, especially one that yeah? Okay, it's right up there, isn't it? You're just like right on it, aren't you? Yeah, you know exactly how often they need to come in, exactly where to adjust, and what's going to happen next. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's where you need to be. Okay. If they're going to follow you, they need to feel that you know your stuff, whether it's from an intellectual level or a physical level. So when we launched chiropracticguru.com, that was exactly what we were delivering. We were trying to help chiropractors become gurus in their community through their communication and through their skill set. Unfortunately, we've only got an hour and a half tonight, not a day and a half, so we can't get too into that. But please ask me afterwards if you want to know any more about that. So with honesty, as chiropractors, what do you think it is we need to be honest about? Well, first of all, we need to walk the talk. Do they teach you that you need to maybe recommend people do some exercise? Yeah? You need to do exercise, don't you? You need to do stretches and all those kind of things. I mean, really England is the home of the couch potato, isn't it? I mean, you're about to go into 6 months of darkness. And when it's not dark, it's raining sideways. So, it's quite tempting just to have a chocky bicky and a cup of tea and watch whatever rubbish is on TV. So if we're recommending to people that they exercise, do you think maybe that we maybe need to look like we exercise too? Does it look good if we're seen jogging along the high street or going to the gym or doing those kind of things? Yes? 100%. We've got to walk the talk. Do we get adjusted on a regular basis? I mean, if we recommend people to come in and have adjustments, are we doing the same? You know, it's about walking the talk, not just telling people to do things. The next thing is congruency. So congruency is really in your message. You know, what kind of chiropractor do you really want to be? Do you really want to be over here? Which is totally cool, by the way. We've got a chiropractor on the Gold Coast, which is where we're from. It's a lot hotter. That's why we moved there. So he's on the Gold Coast now. All he does is flexion distraction for hot discs. So hot discs, you know what I mean by hot discs. Discs, product discs, you know, raging sciatica. And he sees those kind of patients. That's all he sees all day long. Is that a good thing for chiropractic or a bad thing for chiropractic? I think it's brilliant because this guy is top of his tree. He is so highly skilled. He sees patients that can't get in to see the surgeon yet. He sees patients that are kind of questioning whether they should have surgery. He actually gets surgeons to recommend to him. He's that good. That is brilliant for our profession. And that's his model. That's the way he wants to practice. That's what he knows he's good at it. That's his niche. Chiropractors refer to him, physios refer to him, specialists refer to him. Great practice. The thing is, we have to be congruent. If you walk into his practice and you have people, you know, jumping on the beach and doing all those kind of things, how's that going to look to someone who can't even stand? It's probably going to be a bit of a mixed message, isn't it? The other thing is, if you want to be, I want to be all about sports and vitality and people, you know, doing stuff, and you go into your practice and you've got pictures of people that can't even stand, that's not congruent either, is it? So you've got to really be very clear on exactly who it is you want to be and what message you want to try and portray. And the beautiful thing about chiropractic is really there's a whole scope of chiropractic. And you don't have to say, well, that person doesn't practice like me, so he's no good. He's one of those mixers. I'm straight. No, we're all chiropractors. The biggest problem why we haven't got our message out is that we choose to divide ourselves. What's with that? We're probably the most divided profession on the planet. Okay, we've got to go around the quad 4 times and bang our head on the wall and get over it. And the third thing is communication. So I know you've been sitting already for half an hour, so I want you all to stand up, and I want you to team up with someone that you don't actually know, someone you don't socialise with, someone you don't share a house with, you don't study with. Just nice way to mingle, nice way to get to meet people. Okay, so now what we're going to have person A and person B. I used to do this with person 1 and person 2, but I don't know you guys well enough to call you number 2. So we're going to go person A and person B. So, have you decided who's person A? Okay, you all decided who's person A? Now I need a stopwatch. We've got there we go. Okay, so person A. Person A, you have 30 seconds to make person B salivate. Go! Make them salivate. Hands up if you salivated. 1, 2. Okay, 3. Okay, so who over here? Who was person B? Okay, so what happened? Describe what happened in that 30 seconds. Why didn't you salivate?
She talked a lot about cakes and
She talked about cakes. Cakes didn't make you salivate?
Yes.
Okay, so who else was the person B that didn't salivate? Over here? You guys, yeah, you all salivated? Come on, who didn't get to salivate in that experience? Okay, so what happened?
Oh, we were still explaining what salivation is.
Okay, good. All right. Any other experiences? Anyone else want to share what happened? Why they didn't salivate? Okay, yeah, at the back.
Yeah, she's kind of like making herself salivate.
And that didn't work for you? What's the matter with you, man? Now, we had a couple that did salivate. What did you guys do? So there was a couple of hands up. Said yeah. I said okay. What? So what happened there?
Just use really descriptive like words. You know.
Really descriptive words. Okay. So, take a seat for me again, and let's just go through a couple of things with communication. Because I don't know. You guys have kind of like been in relationships and had relationships and everything else, yeah? So I don't know if it happens over here these days, but I'm sure it does. Guys, have you ever been in a discussion or an argument and the girl says, "You just don't understand, you don't listen to me"? Is that familiar? More girls are nodding to that one than guys. So, why is that? Because like you're standing there, the lights are on, you know, you're there, you're spending time. Of course I heard you. Of course I was listening. But they don't think you did. So we had the experience with the cakes. What happens if you start trying to make someone salivate with cakes and they're a diabetic? Or what about if you go on, you start describing this lovely, juicy, medium rare steak and they're a vegetarian? How's that going to work for them? You see, as chiropractors, I remember when I first graduated, I was so excited. You know, I'd grown up in a chiropractic family. My sister came to ACC. My brother came to ACC, and then I came to ACC. So I was raring to go when I got out. And I told them, the history of chiropractic, D.D. Palmer, the deaf guy, the whole history of the stories, the lot, because I was going to change their lives. And they're standing there going, how much are they listening to? About that much. So with communication, you've got to ask the questions. If you want to make someone salivate, ask them, what do they like to eat? What's your favourite meal? Do you remember the last time you had your favourite meal? Where were you? How did it taste? What was the smell? What was going on? They're salivating, baby, I tell you. Okay? So with communication, you've got to ask the person if you're trying to get a message across, you've got to ask questions. What do you think it is we do? Oh, well, you know, a bit awkward that everybody would offend you. You know, do something with bones and realigning. Oh, so you think I'm a backcracker, do you? Okay, well, you don't say that. You say, you know what? That's what most people say. We're actually a little bit different here. Would you like to know what it is we do? Yes, absolutely. Because you see, the thing is, they come in with a preconceived idea. Unless you manage to shake them a little bit, which is what you do when you ask a question, you're not going to be able to put any more information in there. Okay, their cup is full. So with communication, ask questions. The second key to communication is use their words back to them. So when you look at NLP, what happens is when people are in pain and afraid, which most new patients are, they put up like this force field. Okay? Because they don't want anyone to do anything that's going to harm them. They don't want to be conned, they don't want to be tricked, they don't want any of that kind of stuff. Okay? Because they've already been everywhere else and it hasn't worked. So they've got this force field. Okay? Other people in Queensland would call it a bullshit factor. But anyway, you can go with either one. The quickest way to get through someone's force field or bullshit factor is to use words that they are familiar with. Now I'm going to say a word right now, and the walls may shake, they might turn off the power. But I was born and bred, and to this day I still am, a subluxation-based chiropractor. Okay, we're good. Subluxation-based chiropractor, yeah. I developed the chiropractic app, and the word subluxation is not mentioned in it once. Where's your concurrency, Bruce? What's going on? The chiropractic app wasn't developed for me. It wasn't developed for other chiropractors to listen to. They already know this stuff. It was developed for all the people out there that don't know what we do. If I mention a word like subluxation, what's going to happen with that when it hits that force field? Ching! Okay, we need to use words that people are familiar with, people that they resonate with, that they understand. So you repeat the words back. Now, I had an experience, I did some locuming for a period of time, and I did a locum for a good friend of mine, and before he went away, he ran through some of his patient files with me for that upcoming week. And he said, oh, Wednesday afternoon. Yeah, okay. We got this guy coming in, he's a truckie, so I apologise for his language. And sometimes he comes, sometimes he doesn't. He doesn't really get it. He only comes in when he's really bad. If he comes, just do whatever you can with him. Don't worry too much about it. So anyway, Wednesday afternoon came and yeah, the truckie arrived. I never knew anyone could put so many F-bombs together in one sentence and it made sense. You knew what he was talking about. So he's coming up the hallway and he's effing this and he's effing that, and he comes into the room and he's effing this and he's effing that, and I'm standing there and I played rugby. I was pretty used to some foul language, but it even kind of got me on the back foot. So anyway, I wait for him to slow down the number of F-bombs. And I said, oh, hi. I said, so, I'm going to be your chiropractor. He goes, oh, yeah, it's effing. And I said, have you seen your x-rays? He goes, yeah, I saw my effing x-rays on my effing before, and I'm effing this, and I'm effing that, and effing. And I'm like, okay, well, here they are. I said, so what do you see? He goes, I don't effing know, you're the effing chiropractor, you tell me what effing's going on. I said, well, you know what I see? You're absolutely effed. You're so effed, in fact, that effing there, and that effing there, and that effing, oh my, I don't know how you're effing even walking. He became the best patient. Now, I don't recommend you use the F-bomb on every patient who walks in, especially the lovely old ladies. Actually, I had a lovely patient once, and she was telling us where she lived. And she lived in Pukeston. I said, oh, that sounds nice. Where's that? Oh, just up the road, darling. I said, Pukeston? She says, yes, just up past the bell on the left-hand side. Oh, no, Folkestone. All right. So, you got to... But I didn't say Folkestone to her, I said Pukeston. So when you go on your walk around Pukeston tomorrow, because that's the word she's familiar with, that's what she's comfortable with. So that's how you're going to communicate and get your message across. So the future. So we talked about potential future A, didn't we? What's behind door A? Back pain, we're going to compete with these 3D printers that use endogenous stem cells. I think it's really cool, by the way. So the future as I see it. So we're going to look at it for the people who we see and also for our profession. And there's where the slideshow ends. Let's go to the bar. No. So about 2 years ago, bad weather, our flight was delayed, and I was in the Virgin Atlantic Lounge. Lovely place to spend some hours if you get the chance, because they give you lovely wine and all those things. And I was reading a magazine from cover to cover, as you do, because I've read everything else. And it came across this one section called future forecasting. Now, future forecasting back then was something quite new to me. Has anyone heard of the industry of future forecasting? Okay, cool. I'm not the only one who didn't know about it. So what it is, it's this whole industry that looks at trends and things that are emerging over the upcoming years so that companies can build products and services and make a load of money out of it. Okay, and they're very good at it. They get paid millions and millions of dollars every year to say what trends are coming out. Now, what really excited me about this article was that one of the biggest emerging trends right now is health style. Being healthy and being able to demonstrate that you're healthy is becoming as much of a status symbol as having a Porsche in the driveway or a Rolex on your wrist. So most of you guys already made it. Okay? You're right up there. So have you seen those devices you can get, the Jawbones, the Fitbits? Have you seen the new iWatch that's coming out? Okay, now if you've got an iPhone, there's an app that's automatically downloaded to your phone that you can't get rid of that measures your some basic vital signs. How many steps you're taking a day, all those kind of things. Have you seen those? You haven't seen them? You have seen them? Yeah, so the iPhone 6 has got it, all these different apps are coming out, all these different devices. There was even a show, it's actually an English show, called Monitor Me. If you Google SBS and look at Monitor Me, it was a whole show on these devices and how popular they're becoming. So people are really, really getting into the fact that they've got to be healthy. And I was thinking, yes, at last, we're gonna have that critical mass of the population. We're gonna reach that tipping point that all these people are gonna come rushing to our offices because they want to be healthy. Woohoo! In the 4-page article, guess how many times chiropractic was mentioned? Big fat 0. Not even once. Because where are we seen? We're in the pain model. We're in the pain and suffering crowd. They don't see us as helping them with their activity levels, helping them with their sleep patterns, helping them with their energy, helping them with their immune system. Unless we actually get on this bandwagon, they're never going to see that because we're going to keep doing the same old stuff we've done for the last 40 years, yes? So health style is becoming so popular, they're developing devices. So here's a device. It goes on the wrist. Now, it's thinner than a Band-Aid, and as you can see from the picture, it's about the size of a microchip. And it sits on the wrist. Is that pretty cool, huh? Let me show you what this device does. It can tell you single lead ECG, heart rate variability, respiration rate, skin temperature, steps, fall detection, body posture, sleep staging, and stress levels. Wow. Any Trekkie fans in the room? Come on, you can be honest. So I remember watching Star Trek, you know, back in the late 70s and 80s, and they'd go to the sick bay, and they'd lay there, and they'd wave this magic wand. Oh, that's what's wrong with him. They'd wave it over again. Oh, there he goes, pops out of bed, ready for work. And that was really futuristic, wasn't it? Okay, that was like, wow, when's that going to happen? Well, tell you what, this stuff's already here. Guess who's buying all the IP and intellect on this stuff? Sorry? Apple. Apple, very closely followed by Microsoft. Now, are Apple and Microsoft interested in a small niche market like us chiropractors so that we can help demonstrate what we do better? They're about global domination. So this is where Apple are wanting to take this technology. So you wear one of these, so it then uploads to your smartphone. Who doesn't have a smartphone these days? Okay? So this technology's there. The information goes from your smartphone to iCloud. Technology's already there. What you can do with this technology is if you're feeling a bit under the weather or a bit sick, instead of having to go to the GP's office. Who likes going to the GP office? One. Good. How do you like going to the hospital as a patient? No? Okay. So instead of going to the GP office or the hospital, you go online to your virtual GP or whoever GP you're there. You tell them your signs and symptoms. They look at your biometric stats and I say, oh, this is what's wrong with you. Boom, there's your script. That's the future of medicine, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell. So why does this excite me? Well, from a chiropractic point of view, do you remember back to the Wikipedia definition that we've got no scientific validation, yes? Okay, maybe a bit of validation for low backs, but that neck stuff's a bit kind of scary. Yeah, remember that? That's where they hold us, 2014. So what if we can start measuring sleep staging, or heart rate variability, or stress levels? And we can actually start monitoring large members of the community and population and start measuring what happens when they get an adjustment. We've already started. So we've been using jawbone devices in our practice with practice members that have been coming in for well over a year for regular care. And so we bought some of these jawbone devices and we've had them wearing them. And guess what the really cool thing is? Well, you're not going to guess because you weren't there. So I'll tell you. Well, the cool thing is they come in and say, you know what? I knew I was due my adjustment today because my sleep patterns have really been off the last 3 nights. And every time I get an adjustment, my sleep patterns improve. How cool is that? That's really cool, isn't it? So we're now working with a couple of tech companies to try and develop a device that can measure more than just the number of steps and the sleep patterns. That's essentially where we're at the moment. So what I foresee by the time Michaela and Ariana, in 5 years, graduate from chiropractic school, because that's my mission, I've got to look after her, I'm fed up paying for her, she's got to go into a profession that she can fend for herself. So this is it, this is my motivation. You're going to be able to wear a device like this. It can upload the biometric data to your smartphone, which can go to the iCloud. Now, let's say you're a little bit stupid like me and you go do international travel, go all the way from Australia to England, do 5 speaking gigs in a row, and then get on a plane and go back to Australia. What do you think that's going to do to my overall state of health? It's not going to be brilliant, I can tell you.
Stress.
Okay, stress, radiation, you know, not such good food, not as much exercise. My body's not going to be functioning the way it was when I left Australia, that's for sure. Okay, I've probably put on a few kilos already. So my body's not going to be doing so well. So let's say my body's suffering because of some stress, because of I'm traveling or I've got exams or whatever it is. It then pings an alert to my smartphone to say, hey Bruce, you're not functioning as well, you need an adjustment. But let's say it goes one step further. It connects with the calendar in my phone to the diary in my chiropractor's office and says, hey Bruce, you're due an adjustment, we've got one for you 2 p.m. on Thursday. How cool is that? The technology's already there. We've got the smartphones, we've got the calendars, we've got the online booking systems. All we need is the devices. It's that close. Now at the moment we're working well, and unfortunately at the moment it looks like a small parachute that you wear here, and it's really not very nice to sleep with. But I remember when I first locumed, again, I graduated 21 years ago, so it's about 20 years ago, I was the coolest kid on the block because I bought a mobile phone. Now, some of you weren't even born then, but the mobile phone I bought was about the size of a breeze block. The battery lasted about 3 hours, and I'm sure I could have fried an egg on the back of that thing after a 5-minute phone call. Okay? I had a full head of hair when I graduated. That thing, I'm sure, is the part of the reason. So that was cool. Okay, that was my mobile phone, and I was so cool. I was in the cafes outside in Australia, and lovely warm day, and I thought it'd be so cool I'd pretend to be speaking to someone, and my phone rang. That's not cool, so don't do it. Don't attempt to do it, but it's one of those things you get into. So that's first generation mobile phones. Now look at mobile phones, how small they are, how much they can do. Okay, so these biometric devices, they're advancing at a rapid rate. Okay, so option B is, instead of necessarily being in the back pain model, we're going to be able to physically demonstrate through technology that as we adjust and improve the function of the nervous system, the body works better. Am I saying we're going to cure cancer and we're going to cure eyesight and deafness and all the rest of it? No. Because there's a lot of factors involved in all those things. But if you improve the functioning of the nervous system, is the body going to work better? Yes. Is the person going to necessarily get out of pain? Not always. That's where that model falls down, by the way. Okay, you can't promise to get them out of pain. Over here, you can promise to get their body working better. Woohoo! Okay, so that for me is the future. That's where we're headed, that's where we need to head. Now some of you look at me thinking, this guy's been in the sun too long. So, when we come to inspiration, we need to go through our belief. Sorry? Okay. You're getting too hot or too cold? Is that better, everyone? I just don't want to fall asleep. So. Okay. So we have to have a simple, clear message. So who would like to define for me what chiropractic is? Come on, you're all students. What's chiropractic? Musculoskeletal specialist, okay. Thank you. That was very brave. Musculoskeletal specialist, okay. Anyone else like to define chiropractic?
Balancing of the nervous system.
Balancing the nervous system, fantastic, thank you. Anyone else like to define chiropractic?
To achieve the results by spinal manipulation and adjusting.
Achieve the results by spinal manipulation and adjusting, fantastic, thank you. Anyone else like to define chiropractic? Do you see what's happening here? 3 definitions. How were any of those 3 the same? If we had time and we went round the room and I made each one of you define chiropractic, okay, in a room of, I don't know how many we've got here, about 60 or so people, okay, we'd have probably about 50 definitions of chiropractic. How on earth are our communities or people outside of this room supposed to know what chiropractic is? We can't even bloody agree on it, can we? We don't have one clear definition that we all agree on, that we all use. So what people do, instead of relying on us to tell them what chiropractic is, they look in the yellow pages. Well, okay, they don't look in the yellow pages anymore because it's rubbish. They Google. And what do we see when we Google chiropractic and we look at chiropractic offices and chiropractic clinics? What do we see? Pictures of spines. Pictures of spines, bones, backs. What do we see? I saw lots of them walking around today. What else do we see when we go into the office of a chiropractor or student chiropractic centre? Lots of spines, lots of bones. So they come into us thinking we deal with bad backs. It's no bloody surprise, really, is it? That's the only consistent message we're putting out there. So what I'd like to propose is a different why, or a different version of chiropractic, and it's not one that I can actually lay claim to. Has anyone heard of this lady, Dr. Heidi Harvick? Yeah. Okay. Now Dr. Heidi Harvick is doing some phenomenal research, and so I've actually got a copy of her latest book. Has anyone read this one?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. For those of you who haven't, that's your copy now. Okay? She is doing the most cutting edge research in chiropractic that there is. She's looking at functional MRIs. She's looking at brain function before and after a chiropractic adjustment. Okay, and I'll lead you to one of the quotes towards the end of how that research has changed her belief. But this is hers. Oh, we've got that word again. That's her words. Okay? Subluxations cause an altered state of input to the brain. Okay, we're not talking backs, we're not talking bones. To the brain. Creating maladaptive or negative brain changes which can lead to symptoms. So does that mean, with that line, that not necessarily everyone's going to have symptoms if you've got subluxations? Could that be true? Really? Anyone ever heard of that? Surely you can't have bad back and have no symptoms, can you? Only 1 in 10 nerves are pain nerves, people. 1 in 10. Of course you can have a lot of stress and pressure on your nervous system affecting your brain function without pain. So there we are concentrating on the pain model. We're missing 9 out of 10 people that can benefit from what we do. Okay, so automatically our market share increases. Now how? How does it work? How can she lay claim to that? Again, Dr. Heidi Howlett. Adjusting your spine can improve the accuracy with which your brain perceives the world and controls your body. So we can now say that having an adjustment helps your body work better. And let me tell you something. The people that come into your offices, they understand the power of the brain. But it's not only people coming into your offices, you look at a lot of medical things and medical terminologies. And the way medicine's going now, a lot of it's going towards the brain. This is our domain, people. This is what we do. Whether you think that adjusting the spine makes a change in people's brain or not, it does. She's proven it using functional MRIs, not subjective. Well, how did you feel after that one, Mary? Did you sleep a bit better? Was your head a little less fuzzy? No, this is research, cutting edge research that she's done. So you can no longer say, oh, well, I don't believe in that. That's that nervous system stuff. It doesn't matter if you believe in it or not. It exists. It's proven. The world's no longer flat. Competency. Evidence-based chiropractic. Now, I'm very philosophical. I love my philosophy. But I absolutely 100% agree that we need to be evidence-based. We cannot continue to walk around without the proof and the evidence. But also, we can't walk around with blinkers on, and like I said before, ask the same old stupid questions, because we're going to get the same old stupid round answers, aren't we? We have to improve the quality of our questions. So, oh my goodness, that word's there again. I thought this took the slide out. Actually, no, I'm lying. Has anyone seen this? 2010, quite recent. Some of the top minds in chiropractic actually went to task to say that yes, the subluxation exists. In here are well over 1,400 references. If anyone wants to say to me that the subluxation isn't valid or isn't proved, I'll say, well, sit down and read this. Okay, because unfortunately these are, by the way, this is yours too. I had to kill a small rainforest to print that out. I hope you don't mind. Okay? Because I thought if you saw it in real life, you'd probably believe me better than I said, oh, it's online. Okay? So it's a 120-page document with over 1,400 references. Okay? And it's there. Again, I'm not saying you have to be all subluxation, but have a read of it. You can't say it doesn't exist until you read that. So Peter Rome, he's Australian. So he did a whole lot of studies. He actually did 2-part studies on the neurovertebral influence upon the autonomic nervous system. Okay? And so there are the references. If you guys want copies of these references, I can send them to your club. So he did a comprehensive review of over 1,200 papers. This guy really doesn't get out much. Okay? Evidential support for the association of a neurovertebral influence upon visceral symptoms, function and dysfunction does exist in the reference literature. Okay? And this is what I like the best. And this would seem to negate claims that there are no formal studies in the manipulative sciences. Okay? No longer can people say that we don't have the proof. It's right there, people. Okay? This guy's done it for us. Think how many curry nights he had to miss out on to put that together. So I've handpicked a few of my favourites and said, oh, should we go through all 2,000 of them? No, okay, let's just go through my favourites. So this is one that I absolutely love. So this is a US chiropractic survey. So it's done in 2000 and it was published in JMPT. Does JMPT just publish any old rubbish? Has anyone here tried to publish in JMPT? It's really hard. Really, 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 really hard to get accepted into JMPT. So what they did is they took patients that were aged 65 years and older. Sorry guys, time to go to get some sleep. They need their beauty sleep, they're getting a bit jaded. So age 65 years and older. Okay, now these patients had actually been having chiropractic care for 5 years or more. So they're over 65 and they've had chiropractic care for more than 5 years. And when you compare, so it's not a small cohort, 311, that's a pretty decent size when you do a trial. So when they compared these 311 over 65-year-olds, they spent only a third, or just under a third, of the national average on healthcare. Now, I don't know how you guys are, but do you have a situation where when people come in to see you, they're a little bit upset because they have to pay to come and see you, whereas if they go to the NHS, they don't have to pay? They think healthcare is free, yes? They think healthcare is free. How is that possible? Do the doctors work for free?
In England?
Yeah. Do they work for free? No. Do the nurses work for free? Okay? It costs money. Up to 40% of our tax dollars is spent on sick care. It isn't free. So just think, if we're spending up to 40% of our tax dollars on sick care, and we can do something that will mean they only spend 31%, do you reckon that's fairly important? So what we're going to start being able to prove is that not only can we actually do what we say we do, but we can actually save governments and insurance companies money. And let me tell you, that's where our biggest referrals are going to come from. Actually, on the back of this, and there was another study in the States, which I didn't actually get the reference for, the US government, back in 2001, did a retrospective study of insurance, private health insurance companies and claims. This study involved over 1 million people. And they compared one group, so about half of them, had chiropractic care included in their health cover. The other half didn't. And then they looked at the figures. Now, just because these people had chiropractic cover in their insurance doesn't necessarily mean they went to a chiropractor. They just could go to a chiropractor if they chose to. Okay? But most people, I don't know what you guys are like with insurance. If you've got it, you're going to use it. They found a 17% reduction in medically related expenditure in the group that had chiropractic care. Obama wanted to make chiropractic available to all Americans. You know the stumbling block? He only wanted them to pay $10 a visit. Now the thing is with that is, on our existing clinical models, the way we adjust people and the time we spend, that's not viable, is it? Okay, you're going to go out of business pretty quick. But if we expanded our minds and maybe started working differently, that could be quite achievable, don't you think? Bit of silence in the room on that one. But have a think about it. They also only spent 50% of the time going to appointments for checkups and so on. So they got more time to play golf and go bowling and do all the things that old people do. Got to be careful with that one. I'm nearly there, aren't I? I remember her 13th birthday. I sat on the bed and I'm like, I can't believe I've got a 13-year-old daughter. I feel so old. She looked at me and said, you are old. I was absolutely cut. So here we've got another one. So they basically looked at HIV positive patients and their CD4 counts. Cool stuff, huh? After 6 months of the study, or over 6 months of the study, the control group, okay, they didn't have any chiropractic care at all. They had a 7.96 decrease in CD4 cell count. The adjusted group had a 48% increase in CD4 count. Which group would you want to be in if you were HIV positive, do you think? Really? I'd be pretty upset if I found out I was in the control group. Maintaining a healthy immune system depends upon maintaining a healthy nervous system. It goes one step further than that. Has anyone read the book or seen the book Molecules of Motion by Candice Pert? All hands up! No, one. Come on! This is chiropractic stuff! This lady, Candice Pert, was one of the founders of a branch of science called psychoneuroimmunology. And she showed that you can change the body's physiology within a fraction of a second through your thoughts. Now remember, 2 slides ago we talked that a chiropractic adjustment changes the way the brain functions. Do you think this stuff is important for us? You betcha. What she found, as she was going through the nervous system with all their newfangled technology, is they couldn't see where the nervous system ended and the immune system began. They are now calling it the neuroimmune system. So do you think if we do an adjustment and we affect the nervous system, we might possibly have a bit of an impact on the immune system? Absolutely, 100%. They're not excited about this stuff. I mean, really. You know, we're talking option A or option B. Okay, student loans, studying past midnight, all that kind of stuff. So my thing to you is to be open to new ideas. I know there's a certain thing that you've got to conform to in an institution like this, and that's fine because they've got a job to do. They've got a job to make sure you're safe and competent to go out there and work in the general public. That is their job. Their job is not necessarily to ensure your career ends up here or your career ends up here. That is not their job. That is your job by coming to these talks and when you graduate, finding a chiropractor or a mentor that's going to be able to help you transition from college life to real life and where you want to go. So just to give us an idea, if the brain was simple enough to be understood, it would be too simple to understand it. So basically what that means is there's a long way to go. There's a lot we don't know about the body. So when you have someone stand up in front of you and say, this is the way it is. This is the way it is. There's no other way. Tell them to run around the quad 4 times and bang their head on the brick wall. Okay? They're a bloody idiot. Now why I like this one, so Heidi Halleck, she's a Scandinavian, and she started her career, and one of the reasons she went into research was that she felt that chiropractors, or some chiropractors, were actually seeing people too much. Have you heard that? Over-servicing? Yeah? Keep people coming back and coming back and coming back. And so she wanted to absolutely definitively show what a chiropractic adjustment does, but hopefully also show that you don't need to do that much of it. After 13 years of research, neurologically based research, she's now come to the conclusion that in fact, chiropractors aren't seeing their patients enough. They're not seeing them enough to create long-standing positive changes. We're too afraid. Once they're out of pain, what happens next? What do we say to someone who came in pain, they're out of pain, why should they come back? Why? What have you told them?
It's too late for it if you haven't told them already.
Exactly. So you've got to be a leader, you've got to hold them by the hand on the first visit and start directing them and showing them the possibilities. One thing I love doing when I do lay lectures or public talks, who's read the book by Dr. Eric Klasker, The 100-Year Lifestyle? Another brilliant book. I'm going to bring more books for you guys next time because you don't read enough. So, Dr. Eric Klasker, he's a chiropractor, talks about the 100-year lifestyle. Now in that, what he's shown is the fastest growing age group. Now this is by percentage. Okay, it's not by overall numbers, it's by percentage, but on a percentage basis, the fastest growing age bracket is people living beyond 80 to 100. So I ask the audience, wherever I go, who'd like to live to 100? Come on! Who'd like to live to 100? And in this room should be everybody. Okay. You don't have your hand up. Why don't you have your hand up?
And what quality of life?
Quality of life. What else are you worried about? Yeah, so I'm still going to pick on you. I know. Why didn't you put your hand up to live to 100? Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to live to 100? Without living all your friends and family. So yeah, so people might die off. Quality of life. Might run out of money. Being dependent is one of the biggest fears that people have. Being put into a home or having a care or those kind of things. But what if you could live to 100 and you could still be independent and you could still do things you enjoy and so on? How would that be? Okay. Our eldest patient in our practice, Les, he's 101 years old. He lives just around the corner from the practice. He lives on his own. The main reason he comes into the practice is because I've lifted one of those bloody pot plants again. Les, stop lifting the pot plants. You're 101. The only thing that's fading on him now is his eyesight. Now Gordon, his best mate, is 87. He also lives just around the corner from the practice in a different apartment, also on his own. Great chef. If you ever want to have like a Chinese meal, go and speak to Gordon. Now Gordon's got a really great sense of humour. So Gordon and Les are sitting on a bus. These guys have a better social life than I've ever had. These guys are out drinking every day. Okay, every day. And sometimes I go twice a day drinking. They're just amazing. These guys are machines. So they're sitting on the bus stop, okay? And Les's eyesight's just really poor. I mean, you know, he probably couldn't see you sitting there nowadays. Everything else about him is fantastic, but his eyesight's really poor. So Gordon says, Les, he says, God, there's a gorgeous sort coming down the road. And Les like, oh, you bastard. He says, you know I can't bloody well see her. He says, you have to describe her to me. So he says, I went into this big description and told her, you know, how long her legs were and all this kind of stuff. And he says, you know the funny bit? There wasn't even anyone there. So there's these two old guys, 87 and 101, going out all the time, still having an absolute ball. Okay? So it's possible. It's doable. Paint that picture for your next elderly new patient that comes in. Okay, there is a way that you don't have to wear that diagnosis like a badge. Okay, the body's designed to heal. All you've got to do is take away the interference, provide the nutrients, and do the movement. So really what I want to end with is a vision. Okay, you guys have to go through some pretty horrible stuff. I remember going through ACC. The first 2 years were shocking. I call it earning your stripes. Okay, I can still remember looking down a microscope thinking, what am I doing this for? Okay, I'm never going to do this after I leave here. But anyway, I did it. I earned my stripes because that's what we've got to do. And why we do it is so that when we do have a conversation with someone talking about histology, we can at least have something sensible to say. Okay, which is quite unusual for me because I'm going to say something pretty stupid. But ultimately the future is ours to create. We can choose option A over here, and we can stick to that model, or we can take a chance and stick to option, we'll go with option B. Now I'm hoping that 4 to 5 years time, we're going to have these devices, they're going to be common stream, and we're going to be proving the effects of chiropractic. But the only way we're going to be able to do that is if enough chiropractors come on board and see that option B is a much more fun, much more viable option to progress our profession. So again, thank you so much for coming out tonight. I know you probably had study and everything else to do. We are going to be hanging around for questions, I believe. So if anyone has any questions you'd like to ask from the floor, go straight ahead. More difficult, the better. Any questions at all from you guys? Wow, I've done either a really good job or a really rubbish job. There we go.
Yeah. So you mentioned the future forecasting, right?
Future forecasting, yes.
A lot of chiropractors see 60, 65-year-old older patients.
Yes.
How do you see that develops on that age group?
Oh, huge, because the thing is our population is growing, is getting older.
Okay.
So okay, let me give you an example. I had a lady come to our practice. This was about 3 years ago. So what happened is she lived on the land with her husband. Her husband passed away, and it was too big a property to maintain. So she moved into town, so she'd be closer to services and shops and doctors and all those kind of things. And she ended up in an apartment. Now, because she wasn't moving every day like she was, over her lifetime she'd done so much hard, heavy work that she was riddled with arthritis. She stopped moving. What happened? She seized up. She seized up so bad. We've got a street outside our office. And there's just one lane going one way, one lane going the other way, and a bit of space for parking. Okay, it's not a massive street. She was too afraid to cross that road because she thought she might get halfway and her body would seize, and then a car would come along and that'd be it. So she became a prisoner in her own apartment. She went to the doctors. Guess what the doctors said? Mary, you're 86, what do you expect? Her neighbour, thankfully, was a really good patient. And he said, look, just give it a go. You know, my chiropractor says if you've got a spine and a nervous system and you're still breathing, come on in. Okay, because that's my prerequisite, that's it. So anyway, so he drove her to the practice. Within 3 months, not only was she walking to her appointments, but she was actually walking across the bridge to get into town, doing her shopping and walking back again. She said, you give me my life back. Now, I hadn't performed CPR or open heart surgery or anything else. I just did the best I could with what I knew to help get her body working better. Now, I couldn't guarantee she'd do that. She's certainly not going to go in the Olympics, but she's got her life back. She's able to move again. So it's a huge, huge area for us. Absolutely.
Was it only adjustments that you did on her?
Yeah, only adjustments. So we did recommend that she have a couple of massages and things, but I do always give exercises. I think it's really important to give patients or people something to do at home, because number one, it allows them to be a little bit in control of how they perform, but it's also a good way of you reinforcing the fact that what they do when they're not in the office has as much of an impact on their outcome as what you do in the office. Okay? For instance, we had a lady, she's actually a friend of one of our CAs, and she was going to cancel her adjustment because she was feeling unwell. And the CA said, no, it's the best time to come in, get an adjustment, helps to create movement through the lymphatics, stimulates the nervous system, which stimulates the immune system, come in and get an adjustment. And he said, that was the Thursday. She came on the Monday and said, that bloody adjustment didn't work, I still feel crap. And the CA said, yeah, but you went out partying 2 nights in a row, smoking and drinking and staying up till 3 in the morning, what do you expect? And she went, oh yeah, I guess so. Okay, so what they do in between visits is really important to give them, the information to look after themselves best, 100%.
What do you do with your chronic pain patients that are really difficult to get these last stages of pain out?
Look, it's the way you pre-frame it. You don't know that you're necessarily going to help them get out of pain.
No.
But I have the confidence and understanding of how the adjustment works, that their body's going to work better. Let me give you another story, another example. So this was actually whilst I was still working in the UK. Now this guy came into the practice and he said, I've got this shoulder pain, I've been everywhere, I've had cortisone, I've had acupuncture, I've had all this kind of stuff. Now this guy, just to set the scene a little bit, he was one of those people, if he was sitting in a room and there were seats in the room that meant you didn't have to sit next to him, you'd go and sit over there. He just had one of those auras. He was grumpy, he was aggressive, he was the whole lot. And so he came in for his full schedule of care, and on the review there's a line that says, mark the percentage of improvement and everything else, big fat 0. So I sat down with him and there was nothing in the other bits, are you sleeping better, is your energy picked up, there's nothing there at all, just 0, 0, 0. So I said to him, so hang on, he says, nothing's changed, nothing, just absolutely exactly the same, nothing's changed. And I asked him 10 different ways and exactly the same answer. Now my saving grace was this. On most of the visits, he'd bring with him his daughter. Now his daughter was about 8 or 9 years old, blonde hair, blue eye, cutest little thing you've ever seen. And so in absolute sheer desperation, I turned to her and I said, have you noticed any difference in your dad since you've been coming in? And she just looked up and said, yeah, he doesn't hit Mum and I anymore. You could have just watched the air out of his lungs. He just sat back and it just went, bing, hit him. He thought up to that point it was everyone else because his nervous system was so agitated. He was in such a state of fight or flight and stress that any little thing would flip him over the edge and he'd just lash out, and even to the people around him that he loved. Yet once we'd been adjusting him, we'd got his nervous system to calm right down to the point that he was a lot more tolerant of things around him and people around him. So he wasn't needing to hit his wife and kid anymore. He became a really good patient after that, by the way. He's a really nice guy. You sit down and have a chat with him. But he just didn't realise. He thought it was all about the pain. So yeah, you don't know. You can't guarantee that the pain's going to go, but you can guarantee other stuff's improving. You can't not. How do you have it's proven? You just got to have that confidence. Take another scenario. If you weren't looking after that person, what's their alternative option?
Cortisone injections.
Cortisone, drugs, or possibly surgery. Most people go for the drugs first. Okay, if you look at the amount of drugs that people are taking on a daily basis, in Australia now they say by the age of 65 people are taking 7.4 drugs a day. Okay, Australia's supposedly quite a fit place. Okay, lifestyle. 7.4 drugs a day. That's their alternative. What do you think their quality of life is going to be like taking those drugs compared to what you're doing? If you're able to keep them going, massive difference, huge, 100%.
So how do you suggest it changes?
Suggest what changes?
Well, like getting more people into chiropractic.
Okay, good question. See, the biggest obstacle we have as a profession is we don't have the money of Big Pharma, We don't have the political sway of medicine. But what we do have is we have tens of thousands of patients around the world that have got great results with chiropractic. What we've got to do is we've got to be able to harness that potential and that ability. You know when something funny gets posted on YouTube, it goes viral, yes? That's basically how we've got to work from inside out, just like healing. We've got to work from inside out, and that's why we developed the app. How many people have got the app on their phone? Okay, do students like free stuff? Okay, it's free to download, guys. Okay, iTunes, Google Store. I'm not making any money out of it, so I can stand up here and promote it because it's, doesn't really make a difference to me now. It's up to you. It's a healthcare talk broken down into short videos. Okay, so you can actually say to people, did anyone here in the room, when you said you were going to chiropractic school, or even now when you go home for holidays, say, chiropractic, really? Well, what are you doing that chiropractic thing for? Wouldn't it be better if you did physio or something like that people actually accept? Does anyone get that? Well, now you can show them the app. You don't see. They will still see you as a child or as a niece or a nephew or those kind of things. If you can show them something on a device, it's in video format, 90-second videos. Third-party validation. All of a sudden, someone else is saying something that you're saying before, saying it in a different way. I had a lady. She was a patient with us for 7 years. For 7 years, she would say, "My husband needs to come in. My husband needs to come in. My husband needs to come in." When the app came out, I said, get him to watch the video on the safety of chiropractic. It's got the statistics. It's got everything on there. She goes, he's not afraid. He doesn't think you guys are dangerous. I said, show him the video on safety of chiropractic. He watched the video. Guess what happened? He came in. Because it wasn't her nagging in his ear, telling him. And he did have a deep-seated belief that chiropractic was not safe. That a little child came in the other day. So your mummy's chiropractor. They think we're chiropractors. I thought it was just so beautifully put, okay? Because they don't think we've got the science. They don't think we've got that backing us up. So give them the videos. It's all out there.
In terms of chiropractic education, do you think like the future belongs more to the vitalistic schools?
I hope it belongs to all schools, because once we start pumping out the research that the chiropractic adjustment actually helps the body work better, there ain't enough of us to cope with the demand.
Just because like in America, also the enrollment numbers are like dropping or kind of...
In some schools.
Yeah, in some schools.
Okay, okay, again, if you want to be a leader, you've got to have a vision for the future, and you've got to be enthusiastic. Okay, if you go to a college like Life West, and you go attend the Wave, oh boy, they've got a vision. These guys are passionate. Who are you going to follow? The guys that are passionate, or the guys that are like, well, numbers are down, you're not really quite sure why, but you can't use this word and that word, and this is what you've got to do. Okay? So that's why those numbers are growing. Because people go where the fun's at. Okay? Where the energy's high. Okay? Same thing with your practice. People aren't going to want to come to you if you're quiet. If you walk along and there's 4 restaurants in a row, there's one that's empty, there's one that's full, which one are you going to go to? Full one. Food must be good there. Okay, it's just the way we work. So I'm really hoping that it doesn't come down to again, I don't like this vitalistic, mechanistic thing. We're all chiropractors. We just got to agree on a common thread. I actually had a really good debate with Matthew Bennett. Anyone heard of Matthew Bennett? Yeah. Okay, he's the president of the BCA, guys. You should know who he is. So I had a good debate with him about the definition of chiropractic. What message are we sending out? And so I sent him a copy of the Heidi Havoc book as well. And we managed to have some good common ground. Yes, we are known as spine specialists, but if we corner ourselves on that, as far as the public are concerned, they're only going to come to us when they've got a really bad back and everything else has failed. They're not going to come to us first because they think what we do is possibly going to be painful and maybe even harmful.
When a new patient comes to you in pain, what sort of options do you give them as packages of care?
As to?
Like a package of care, how do you kind of sell it to them what you're going to do?
Okay, well, first thing I do is I go through a history and exam. Okay, so it's impossible for me to know what's going to happen until I've got that information. Then I give them the information. I say, based on my experience, your age, what's going on, what we found, how much degeneration, this is typically what's going to be involved. And I break it down. So the best thing with this, remember I had the exercise which said about make the other person salivate. So what I do, I go through the history and I say, well, But when I do the report, I go through the report and say, okay, so you came in, you've had this issue going on for 6 months. We found on your x-rays you've got this much degeneration, which has taken probably the best part of, you know, and I'll leave it for them to answer. Okay, see if they're listening. Okay, they say, oh, about 10 years. Okay, so I say, and then I show them the posture photos and everything else and say, so how long do you think it's taken for your body to get like this? Ask the patient. There's no point in me telling them, because that's going off that force field. Ask them, how long do you think it's taken to get like this? Oh, it's probably taken years. So how long do you think it's going to take to improve this and make it better? You'll be amazed that the patients will give you a much longer time frame than you allow yourself if you just try and pick a number out of thin air. Ask them, they'll say, oh, it'll probably take years. You say, yeah, absolutely. Well, what we've done is we've broken it down into bite-sized pieces. So we've got an initial phase of care, and then we review. We see how you're going. Because, look, you could improve incredibly well, or you could improve very little. We don't know that until we review it. Then at that stage, we decide what happens with the next stage and the next stage, and hopefully we can open up the gaps, and this is what you're looking at. But ask them. You know, ask them questions.
You said to achieve like the optimal health for people, they should get adjusted more.
Yes.
How much?
More than
is-
12 visits. Because that's the
Yeah.
typical standard, isn't it?
Okay, but to reach that optimal health, should they go and get regular checkups, and how many? And for
That's a
how
really good
long?
question. It depends on the person. So, you know, if you have a person that's lives a pretty good lifestyle, okay, they eat well, they exercise regularly, they're not in a high stress environment, maybe they're semi-retired, loaded, whatever else, okay, you know, not lots of young children running around, you know, their bodies are going to probably be coping fairly well. If you have someone that's sitting in front of a computer for 12 hours a day, they're mega stressed, in the middle of a divorce, no exercise, 20 kilos overweight, different story. So you can't say this is how much care someone should have. It depends on the individual. So again, with the Chiropractic Guru, what we do is we show you physical ways of being able to actually demonstrate the state of their nervous system. So in our office, we have a system where sometimes what happens when people come out of pain, they cancel the next appointment because they feel good. They think it's all done. So what we say is, if you come into the practice and we can't find anything that needs to be adjusted, there's no charge. But get checked anyway.
Does that often happen?
Very rarely. So what we do is we do a series of reflex muscle tests. So we use major muscle groups like hamstrings and those kind of things. Very hard to cheat, and that's important because if you're going to do a test on someone, if they think you're cheating, they're out. Okay? So it's reflex muscle test. It's very easy to explain, very easy to demonstrate. If you find a weakness, then what I say is, oh look, there's a weakness there that shows you've got stress in this area. Should we leave it? And they go, no way, adjust it. So there you go. That's that. And you know, we don't guess what we need to adjust in our practice. We test, we adjust, and then we retest to demonstrate to that person how much better that area is working there. And they really love that. Because you can talk for hours. If you can physically demonstrate something, it takes 2 seconds. Really empowering. But it's ongoing, you know, and you know, I explain to people, I say, look, if you want to go to the gym to get your fitness levels up, how many times do you go to the gym a week? Sorry?
Every day.
Every day. Fantastic. Okay, that's a lot when patients say that. So they'll normally say 2 or 3 times a week. Okay, so yeah, okay, so you have to go repeatedly. Why do you have to go repeatedly? Keep your fitness up, keep your muscle memory up, keep your body used to working that way. Okay? So if you go to the gym for 6 weeks, is that it then? You can stop going to the gym and you can stay fit and strong forever? Oh, I wish. And patients get that. You know, just because you come for 6 weeks, you're going to carry on sitting in front of that computer for 10 hours a day. Sitting in front of the TV, you know, doing whatever. It's a process. And you know, people say, oh, you keep your patients coming back. I can't even make my daughters do anything they don't want to do. How can I keep a patient coming back? They choose to. And the reason they choose to is because they value, they understand the reason. They know why they're there.
But then, for us example, we pay £60 for 1 year membership.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 treatments. That's 2 weeks maybe?
Yeah.
How do you keep them?
That's your headspace because you're a student. Okay, one of the biggest issues you're going to have to get over when you graduate is that not everyone's poor as a student. And also, the thing is, it's true, but also the thing is this, if you have to work to pay your mortgage, to pay your bills, to put your kids through school and everything else, how much does it cost you when you can't work compared to when you can work? I have salespeople that say, look, they get to come in and get adjusted every couple of weeks. They don't have symptoms, but they say, we know we sell more when we're switched on. They make more money. It's worth it. It's value. It's perceived value.
So do they see the difference? Like if I were to tell my mom, like, oh, you should go see doctor, now go your car, even if you don't have pain,
Yes.
if it is just to get everything working,
Absolutely.
will she feel the difference for like one day and then coming back enough to see the difference? Like,
Okay, so what we do is, like I said, we do a series of tests and we demonstrate whether or not there's a need for an adjustment or not. Once we demonstrate there is a need for an adjustment and they can physically feel or see that, then what we do is we offer them the schedule of care. Once they're happy with that, then we'll go ahead and adjust them.
yeah.
Now, will they feel a difference? What we're always sort of looking for, like I said, like with the jawbones and everything, is how did you sleep? What is your energy?
Okay.
What other things are going on? It doesn't have to be all about the pain.
Yeah.
Especially if they're coming in and they're asymptomatic. So, classic example for that one. We had, okay, so I just moved to Australia from England, and we're sitting on these boats, and it's actually a beautiful day, and we're just, they bring the boats backwards into the beach, so you can kind of hop off the boat and get onto the beach. Absolutely. Who wants to come work in Australia, by the way? So, anyway, so here we are. And anyway, so we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, the guys that I'm sitting with said, oh, there's Dick. And I'm like, what? Anyway, in Australia, if someone's called Richard, they shorten the name to Dick. Kind of odd, I know, but anyway, they do it. So they said, there's Dick, let's go and see him. So anyway, so we all jump off the boat, and we go and see this grey-haired chap that's walking on the beach. And he's called Dick. Anyway, so we're having a little chat, and he comes and joins us back on the boat, and he says, so one of the guys who's actually the manager of this, that works with this guy, says, you haven't got a clue who this is, have you? And I'm like, sorry, no, I don't. I said, I thought his name was a bit odd, but, I don't have a clue who it was. Anyway, it turns out he's a sports racing, he's a racing legend. He drives what you'd call touring cars here. We call them V8 supercars in Australia. So he's an absolute legend. He's, everyone, as he walks down, it's a bit like Barry Sheene. If Barry Sheene walked down the road in his day, you guys think, Barry Sheene, who's that? Lewis Hamilton, if he walked down the street, Jenson Button, if he walked down the street, he'd probably gotten onto who he was pretty quick, yeah? Well, Dick Johnson's that high up the food chain. So anyway, so we get talking with the manager, and I said, you guys spend a lot of time and money and energy fine-tuning the cars. I said, who's fine-tuning the drivers? Like, what? And they said, well, they go to personal trainers and they work out in the gym. I said, no, who's fine-tuning their nervous system? And I'm like, what? And the guys, Dick said, they don't have bad backs. I've been to a chiropractor. He says, they don't have bad backs. I said, okay, let me come and see you on Monday or Tuesday and show you what I do. So I went to the office on the Tuesday, and we got an adjusting table, and I ran through the protocols that we teach. I demonstrated every single place that this guy had any nerve system stress. I don't just check spinal nerves. We go from the ground up. He hadn't told me any history, any of his woes, any of his things. And he says, not only did you tell me where I feel it, he says, but you told me areas that I didn't even know were a problem, and you demonstrated them. I said, when can you start? I've been working with V8 supercars now for over 10 years. They fly us to all the rounds. They pay us. Okay, and they're now promoting chiropractic. It's been 10 years, but one of our drivers just went off. They have enduro races, and he went off the track at Sandown at 240 k's. The ambulance came. He got out of the car, okay, thank goodness. Went to the medical bay. They did the once over, and he came out, and he came straight in to see me. So we went through a full check. He was shaken up like you wouldn't believe. We did a whole workup on him. As he got out of the trailer of the truck, guess who was there? Channel 7 national TV. Camera in his face straight away. How are you, Lee? How do you go? How do you go? He goes, oh, well, I got out pretty shaken up, but I've just seen my chiropractor and I feel much better now. How cool is that? He was then on national radio the next morning on the breakfast show, and they said, so how are you going, Lee? And he said, oh, fantastic. They said, so you saw your chiropractor, but he goes, oh yeah, I've just been again this morning. And he says, it just really helps me, it helps my nervous system, helps keeps my body in check. So national TV, national radio. That doesn't happen every round. It's actually the first time it's happened in 10 years to that extent. So what do you think that does for the vision of chiropractic in people's eyes? And it's just purely and simply by being prepared. You know, when a situation comes along, are you ready to stand up and say, well, no, this is actually what we do? Or, oh yeah, I know, we just deal with that same stuff. It's up to you, wherever you want to take it. But sports, working with elite sports people is frustrating, but also very rewarding. How are we doing, guys? So, any other questions?
Is chiropractic for everybody or is there contraindications?
Only for people who have a spine, nervous system, and are still breathing. Absolutely everybody. You've got to have enough techniques in your armory to be able to deal with a newborn, straight through to someone who's 101. Okay? The only thing I would say is a little bit of a concern is potentially people who've got metastases. But again, I do have a story about that as well. What I'm concerned with the metastases is creating too much movement because of spreading. But for pain control, I have adjusted people with metastases because, yeah, it's a very different kind of pain, and they don't want to have 2 dots of pain. So, but no, anyone who's breathing, spine, and nervous system.
What about people with hypermobility, like
Yeah.
adjusting?
Okay, if there is nerve stress and you can demonstrate it, you can adjust it to release that nerve stress. It's about the nerves, it's not so much about the joints. With hypermobility, it then depends on the technique you're going to use. The last thing you want to do is go through an excessive range of movement if they've already got hypermobility. But if you leave that nerve stress there, their health's going to suffer. You can't not adjust them because of that. You may not get a cavitation, okay? But as long as you can demonstrate the weakness, perform your adjustment, and demonstrate an improvement afterwards. That's the 3 criteria in our practice. Every single adjustment. Demonstrate the weakness, do the adjustment, demonstrate the improvement. If you guys want to hang around in a minute, I'm more than happy to show you some of the testing we did. How straightforward it is.
You wouldn't be able to do that on today, I'm afraid.
Okay, can't do that? Alright. I wouldn't adjust.
Don't
Because I know I'm not allowed to adjust. Just the demonstrating the weakness.
Cool, sure,
And
yeah.
I do have someone here that I can adjust.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So, I bought my secret weapon. It's funny. It's funny when I say about the three prerequisites. I didn't used to say anybody with a spine, a nervous system still breathing. I used to say anything with a spine, a nervous system and is breathing. So I had a satellite practice in Liskeard, so it's just in Cornwall. And one morning, a good friend of ours came in, and she was crying. And so the first mistake I made was, what's the matter? So anyway, she then started to tell me about her horse. Now, she was a very good event horsewoman, and she had a very valuable horse. And what had happened is her horse had fallen with its front legs like this on the wet grass, and it subluxated its shoulder. Now, the physio and the vet had been working on this horse for 12 weeks. It wasn't improving, so they were going to have to put the horse down. So of course, she's pretty upset about this horse. And then halfway through nearly at the end of telling me the story, she looks up at me and she said, "You said to me, anything with a spine and a nervous system still breathing, you can adjust. You've got to adjust my horse." I'm like, no, I meant people. She said, "No, you've got to adjust my horse." I said, "I've never adjusted a horse before." She said, "You've got to adjust my horse." And when you've got a young woman in front of you that's got tears coming out of her eyes, it's really hard to say no. So I said, "Okay." So she leaves, and I told my wife, I said, "What am I going to do?" She said, "Well, look, you know Sven in Germany, he is an equine chiropractor. He's trained in that. Give him a call and find out what to do." So of course I called him up, and he spoke to me that evening. He said, "Bruce, this is really easy. Everything on a horse is really big, so to actually find where the problems are is really, really easy." Okay? You guys have got some bad minds in this house, haven't you? So anyway, so I found where the error is. So then he said, to do the adjustment, he says, "Have you got an activator?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I've got an activator, but that's for feet and little people and stuff." I said, "It's a horse. Okay, what's an activator going to do with a horse?" So he said, "Look, just find where the problem is, use the activator and see how you go." So not having much faith or belief in an activator, because again, my dad he graduated from Palmer College in 1958. If you didn't hear it move, you hadn't done anything. So that's how I grew up. And I had this silly little activator and this big horse, and hey, I found the problem. Did the adjustment on the Saturday, went back on the Sunday, did pretty much the same adjustment, and then I used some liniment. Little word of advice, okay, if you're going to use horse liniment, put gloves on first. That stuff really hurts. I was rubbing this stuff in and the heat's going up my arms, up my shoulders, I'm starting to perspire. Then of course I tried to wash it off. Don't try and wash it off. It just makes it much hotter. So anyway, on the next Tuesday I saw the girl again, and she said, "You're not going to be very happy with me." And I'm thinking, "Oh shit, she's put the horse down." And I said, "What happened?" She said, "Well, after you came on Sunday, the horse was running around the paddock like you couldn't see anything wrong. Like when I first went there, the horse was like this, honestly. All you needed was a parrot, you know." And anyway, so the horse was running around the paddock totally fine. I said, so on the Monday, he was still running around the paddock fine. So I took him for a ride. "You what?" He said, "Yeah, saddled him up and took him for a ride." I said, "How did he pull up?" "Fantastic." I got to see a lot more horses after that. It was good though, the girls liked it, because I said, "Look, I'm not qualified, I'm not insured to adjust your horses, but if I come," I said, "I'll bring my children along and they can have a little ride on the horses." Do you remember any of that? So they used to come in on the weekend. You know, the funny thing is, we left when left England when Aaron was 5. We'd spent years travelling all over Europe, seeing all the cities and everything else. They didn't remember any of it, because they were under 5. Anyway, on the weekends, they used to come into the bed and say, "Have we seen any horses today, Daddy?" Because they'd get to go horse riding. So anyway, so be careful what you say. If you're going to say breathing in a nervous system, make sure you clarify that it's humans you want to see. Being clear with your message is always really good. So would anyone like to see a demonstration?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'd like to do, because I'm not going to do any adjusting, I promise, Professor Hamilton. Okay. Not going to do any adjusting. What I'd like to do is I'd like to pick someone in the audience, someone who's pretty fit and strong, that there's no chance I've ever met them before, so I can't cheat. Okay, and I'll just do some tests just to give you a bit of an idea as to how we go through the system. Who wants to volunteer? Don't you have to take your clothes on? Okay, come on up. Okay, so this is what you do, and what I really like about this as well is from time to time you're going to get people coming into your practice where their spouses are skeptical. Okay, they don't believe in this chiropractic stuff. So what I'll always do is I'll say, okay, well look, let me just check you. Let's see what we find. And then if you think this chiropractic stuff's still a bit of hocus pocus and you're not interested, that's fine. No obligations. If once we've done the exam you'd like to take it further, that's fine. So if you wouldn't mind just laying on your tummy for me. So has anyone here done any muscle testing at all? Okay, so how did you go with the muscle testing? Pretty good? It's really good, isn't it? Okay. Now, you didn't say anything, you're just smiling. So has anyone not done muscle testing or maybe has a bit of an issue with muscle testing? Can't you can be honest, I've got really thick skin. No? Okay.
I've done it. I did the Simon King course.
Yeah, fantastic.
Actually putting it into practice is
Absolutely. So a couple of things. A couple of obstacles for muscle testing. Number one is it can take a long time to learn. That reminds me of another story, but I'll tell that one in the bar. Because yeah, totally. That's not good at all. There we go. Okay, so I'll tell that from over here. So the biggest thing is, number one, it takes a long time to learn. Number two, it can take a long time in practice to actually use it with people. And number three, it can be a little subjective. Some of the tests can be down to a little bit of, well, I think this person's got this going on, so I'm going to make sure the muscle's really weak when I go and test that, because I've already made up my mind that's what's going on, yes? So what I like to do instead is use reflex, or use big muscles. So the majority of the testing I do, certainly for the nervous system through here, is the hamstring. Now, the reason I use the hamstring muscle, you guys are smarter than me, because you're still in college. How much stronger is the hamstring muscle compared to a triceps muscle? 3 or 4 times? Okay, so if I've got a good hamstring muscle, I shouldn't be able to overpower a good hamstring muscle, should I? No. So this is how it works. So just so now you need to bend for me here. Now, Don't bring the leg up to 90 degrees because they'll lock it in. Just about 60 degrees here. Don't push on the Achilles, you're just a little bit proximal to that. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just gently, I'm going to start pushing down on your leg. I would like you to hold it there strong for me. So hold your leg strong. Fantastic. Bend your knee here. Hold your leg strong for me. Okay, just hold your leg strong for me. Now, I didn't even ask your name. It's really rude, isn't it? Amy. Now, I've never checked Amy before, so I didn't know what was going to happen there. So typical response is both hamstring muscles are going to be strong. What did you guys notice when I did the testing?
The right.
Amy, what did you notice? Just can't hold it. Now the key with this, remember with communication, is asking questions. See, there's no point me coming along saying, oh Amy, isn't that weak? Okay? What I've got to do is say, Amy, what did you notice there? The key with communication, guys, too, is when you ask a question, wait for the answer.
I couldn't hold it.
You couldn't hold it. See, now I might have said that's weak, but Amy says I couldn't hold it. So I'll say, oh, you couldn't hold it. Because that way she knows I've listened to exactly what she's saying. Okay? This is really useful tips, guys. Now, to bend this leg, so just so you can really appreciate the difference, so this leg was nice and strong to start with. So I'm going to push on this leg as hard as I can. Hold, hold. Okay, that's about as hard as I can push on a Thursday night. Okay? How did it go with that? Was that?
That's fine.
That was fine. Fine to hold. Okay. So you can feel the difference between the two.
Yeah.
Now what that tells me is that the nerve supply coming into this right side is being compromised. So what we've got to figure out is where is that nerve supply being compromised? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this leg, I'm going to use the strength of this leg, and I'm going to isolate each nerve pathway. Now as I go through my explanation, I very rarely talk about bones or vertebra. I talk about nerves. Why do you think that is? If I talk about a bone, what's going to happen to their thinking about what it is I do?
You can break it.
It's going to go right back to where they were when they walked in the door, because that was their founding belief system. So I'll talk about nerves. So, hold your leg nice and strong for me, Amy. Very good. So, we'll start off with the coccyx nerve on the left, the coccyx nerve on the right. Sacral nerve on the left, sacral nerve on the right. Hold your leg there nice and strong for me, Amy. What happened there? You can't hold it. Okay. Would you like to know how that test works? Yes. Okay, because most people, especially if you're going to do this test for the first time, want to know, are you doing some kind of black magic, or is this for real? So you've got to explain it. So, Amy, imagine you're having a conversation with someone, and someone puts their hand on your shoulder. Now typically you can continue your conversation and be aware there's somebody there, yes? Fantastic. Now imagine, you've got fresh sunburn. Okay, it's probably a few months ago since you see the sun, but that's okay. Imagine you've got fresh sunburn. Just rubbing it in a little. Who'd like to come and work in Australia? Okay, here we go. So imagine you've got fresh sunburn across your shoulders. You're having a conversation with someone goes to put their hand on it. What happens? Well, automatically, now, watch a couple of things. I'm clicking my fingers because often their face is still face down, so they're not using eye cues, so you have to use auditory cues. So automatically you're going to turn, kick, punch, scream, do whatever you can to protect yourself, yes? That's actually a reflex. Sometimes that'll happen without you even thinking about it. Now exactly the same reflex is being employed when I put pressure here. Now you might think, but hang on, it doesn't hurt when you put pressure here. Yeah, were you thinking that? You weren't thinking that, okay. But a lot of times people say, well hang on, yeah, I can understand the sunburn thing, but when you push down here it doesn't hurt. Well the reason that it still happens is your brain and your nervous system, and you touch their nervous system through here, your brain and nervous system still recognises there's a problem here, so as soon as I go near it, you go into fight or flight, again, clicking your fingers, go into fight or flight. It's all really important steps when you're communicating. You've got to open up as many parts of the brain as possible when you communicate a story. So automatically you go into that fight or flight response, and that's why your leg, you couldn't hold it. Again, using hair words. So just go face down. We're just going to check some of the nerves around the area. So hold your leg nice and strong for me. So sacral nerve on the right side. Come on, Amy. Hold. Did I pay you to do this before we came in? I thought it was some guy at the back I paid for this. Okay, so if I take my hand off there, hold your leg strong. Keep it strong. Okay. So, put my finger on there. It's a reflex. Because it's a reflex, there's nothing you can do to overpower it. Okay? So then I go through all the spinal nerves. Turn it onto your back for me there, Amy, please. But the beautiful thing with this is, so number one, you can isolate if a nerve is under stress. Okay? you can find out where it is. Then you can adjust exactly where it is. I don't care which technique you use to adjust. As long as when you check it again, that weakness has now changed to a strength. So if I was to adjust Amy, which I'm not allowed to do, typically what we'd look for is to make sure that right leg goes strong. Okay? But the beauty with this is the nervous system, does it just go up and down the spine? It goes everywhere. So we've got to check everywhere, haven't we? If we create nerve stress in the knee and adjust the nerve, what are you allowed to use? The spinal dysfunction at L5 or sacrum? What words are you allowed to use? So if we adjust the sacrum, but we leave nerve stress at the knee, what do you think is going to happen as they go for their 5 or 10 minute walk? They're going to go back into their protective pattern. Because the way they walk into you like this is actually very into the body's intelligence, putting them into the position of least stress. You've got to retrain the body to restore that balance. You can't just push it back into place. So we can also check the nerve supply through the extremities. Hold your leg up straight for me. I'm going to push straight down and hold there strong. So this is testing where the femur comes up into the hip. Hold this leg up strong for me. Hold it there strong. I can talk about bones now because I've gone away from the back. I'm going to push this way. Hold your leg strong. So we're checking the hip socket. Fantastic. Bend here. Hold strong. So when you're checking an athlete, do you think they're concerned? Hold this leg up for me. Okay, try that again for me. How did that feel to you? Hard. Okay. Hold this leg here. How's that feel to you? Easy. Okay, so we've got easy on this side, hard on this side. Now let's just check this a little bit further. Now turn your foot inwards. So that puts stress on the outside of your knee. We're going to check what's happening here. Hold your leg. How does that feel? Easy. So by positioning your foot very specifically, we can tell exactly where the stress is coming from. Now, do you think people want to know that you're being specific and you know exactly where the stress is coming from? And you can demonstrate. So hold your leg here. Okay. Hold your leg here. Okay. So strong. So easy. Hard. Okay. So just by doing that, and then what you know from doing this testing, you're going to say, well, that's going to affect your popliteals behind here, and that's going to, oh, there we go. So you know before they've told you where their sore points are going to be, and you can demonstrate it because look, she's wanting to get off the table. See that? So all the while, what you're doing is you're establishing yourself as an expert. Okay, she's not told me any of this stuff. Okay, I'm showing her. She may not have any problems in her knees. Okay, bend here for me. Hold there strong. That's good. Turn your foot in. You test the outside of the knee. And so what we do is we just work our way through the body, and we check the feet, we check the shoulders, we check the elbows. We go right the way through the nervous system. We even do a part on TMJ and cranials to demonstrate whether there's any nerve stress there. Thank you, Amy. Come on up. Round of applause for Amy. Ariana, can you come on up for me? Okay. So Ariana, I'm allowed to adjust?
I don't think we're allowed to.
No adjustments at all?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, it's okay. Look, all I was going to do, I don't want to break a protocol.